Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the June version of the Budget and Finance Committee workshop. I'd like to call our meeting to order. And want to start off by indicating that we are going to amend our agenda this evening that you see on the board in front of you there. And after Dustin Swanger's presentation from Fort Montgomery Community College, we will be incorporating a presentation from the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs at Syracuse University, and regarding something they've been working on for the county. So with that, first of all, I'd like to address our first bullet. Is there anything anybody would like to bring up to discuss in addition to what's on our agenda at this particular point in time? Okay, hearing none. We do have to enter an executive session to speak about a matter pertinent to Fort Montgomery Community College regarding contract negotiations. So I need a motion to enter executive session. Chairman Hedwell, do I have a second? Legislator Sweet, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, thank you. So please, everyone, if at all possible, if you could.
Okay.
All set, Cecil B. DeMille? Okay. May I have a motion to exit executive session? Chairman Hedwell, second. Legislator Bertel. All in favor? And no business was voted on. All right, thank you. Might as well stay right there, Dusty.
Okay.
We'll wait till the noise of the ark being filled back up with animals here.
Sorry to say, Dusty, you used up 13 of your 15 minutes.
That's it. Okay, I can fly through this.
All right, welcome back, everyone, and we will resume our meeting now with President Swanger discussing a request to increase the county's appropriation to the college budget for, I believe, the 2019, correct?
2018-19.
But what would affect us in 2019 budget?
Correct. You could. That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
So you all have a packet that we've provided. I'll point out some highlights as so if you look at page 2, you'll see our enrollment trend. FTE enrollment has been on the decline, and what's interesting, something that we didn't experience, typically after a recession is over and the economy recovers, community colleges have seen a dramatic drop in enrollment. We have not seen that. We've seen more of a slower decline in enrollment. This is typical of community colleges and actually colleges all across the country. We're seeing the same kinds of enrollment declines as we are. If you look at the next page, you'll see that most of the enrollment decline is in full-time enrollment. Part-time is increased for the most part. It decreased a little bit this past year, but by and large, you're seeing a shift from full-time to part-time enrollment. That's coming from two areas. One, more people are working, so they're going to school part-time, which is a good thing. And secondly, we're seeing more high school partnerships. P-Tech program, Smart Scholars, college and high school, those kinds of programs. If you look at page 4, just to give you a quick overview, The budget that we're presenting is actually just about a 1.9% decrease over this year's budget. Over the last 2 years, I've reduced the full-time faculty and staff primarily by about 25 positions on campus as we move forward. We're requesting a $50,000 increase from each sponsoring county. I have not asked for an increase each year. In fact, it's been 3 years since I've asked for an increase in sponsoring from the sponsoring counties. We did get a $100 per FTE increase from the state, but because enrollment is declining, we'll actually see fewer state dollars overall, is the way that's working out. And we'll use about $250,000 of fund balance to balance our budget. If I can move you to page 6, you'll see a graph of where we spend our money. And 84% of our budget is in salaries and benefits, which is typical of service organizations, which we are. The balance of the budget, as you can see, is really kind of minimal when you look in terms of percentages. So I'm really blessed, I think, with people on our campus who have always run frugal budgets. They don't overspend. They've been pretty good about making it work on a shoestring, if you will. I'm going to move you to page 8, which gives you a graphic interpretation or representation of where the revenue comes from. So state aid makes up about 28% of our budget. Tuition makes up about 40% of our budget. Then when you look at chargebacks, that's about 5%. Each county gives us about 8%. And then use of fund balance is about 3%, and other revenue, which is fees, is about 8%. So when you look at that, and you look at the local sources, and the state combines the payment that the counties make, plus chargebacks, plus use of fund balance, local source for our budget is about 24%, which is about what other counties are providing their community colleges as well. So I would say that we're on par with how other community colleges are doing. And then the last page that I would draw your attention to is page 11, which gives you the numerical operating budget, where we're spending our money. It is a total budget of just over $18 million. Now, you'll also see two numbers. So the $18 million is our operating budget, but you'll also see in a motion to approve a $19 million budget. That takes the grant dollars that we receive and adds that in, and that's a little over $1 million that we receive in various grant dollars that supplement our budget. Sometimes that gets confusing. Is it a $19 million or an $18 million budget? The operating budget is $18 million, and then we have that supplemental monies from the federal and state government. And so we are asking for a $50,000 increase in our contribution this year. And certainly, I'm open to any questions, Mr. Chair, if there are any.
All right, thank you, President Swanger. I think President Swanger has been in the college, certainly one of our best resources in the county, in the two-county area. Certainly worthy of our support, in my opinion, but certainly it's an opinion we need to reach, as a legislature. So is there any other
from a
feedback?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just a process, just to remind you, don't mean to be presumptuous, but the motion that you're going to be asked to approve this month is to set the public hearing.
Right.
And then in July, after the public hearing, we'll ask for the vote on approval. So it's a two-step process.
Any other questions or, yes,
Just
executive?
real quick, because I know we have a busy night tonight, but I had the opportunity to attend the FFCC graduation this year, which was fantastic, and the location at Proctor's was great. But just two takeaways that I wanted to share with the board. The first was, what an amazing sight it was to see, I believe it was over 10 kids crossing the stage, graduating with an associate's degree before they actually got their high school diploma as part of the PTEC program, which was phenomenal. And then also, you know, I think FFCC, we all know, has done a great job of adapting to the needs of the community. To know that 100% of all the rad tech students had jobs at the moment that they were graduating, I think is a testament to Dusty's leadership and what they're doing at the school. So I just want to give you a quick kudos on that.
Thank you, Matt. And the ceremony at Proctor's was truly amazing. We had over 2,000 people in the audience. Really amazing.
If anyone's interested, it's a 3.23% increase over what our existing allotment to the college is. And to ask for that after 4 years of not asking for any increases would seem to be a reasonable request. Any other questions or concerns? Chairman Hemlock.
I'm glad you said questions or concerns, because the concern, Dusty, that I still have is the amount of money that we're charging college and high school. I still would love to see that number reduced somehow. I mean, you know, give them the budget and all, but I still think that if we could reduce that number a little bit more, the end would be so much better, because I think there's so many more kids who would be up at school finishing their degrees part-time, even if they're working and stuff. But you know, still, I think that fee is a little still high for the kids in high school, especially for the kids, some of the kids in this area.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm glad you brought that up. College and high school, you know, is an important program in our area, and the law allows us, in fact, requires us to charge 1/3 of the tuition rate to students who are in high school to take courses in that program. The superintendents, I meet with the superintendents every semester, and they raise the same concern, that, you know, in our area, for a lot of students, even 1/3 of the tuition is expensive for families to bear that burden. Our foundation, I don't know if I've told you this part, our foundation came up with a scholarship for college and high school. And so they actually cut that number in half to try and make it more affordable for students. And they gave away about $25,000 this year in scholarship money. And to your point, we did see an increase because there were kids who wanted to take advantage of it and couldn't. So we'll look at what we can do with scholarships. We might be able to do even more because it is important.
I agree, and I think we still need to continue looking at for other avenues of money to be able to reduce that somehow.
All right, any other questions or concerns that they'd like to run by President Swanger before he departs? Hearing none, Dusty, thank you very much for coming here this evening and making both of these presentations, and we look forward to seeing these resolutions in our next couple of meetings.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda, we're certainly very happy tonight to have here with us a contingent of students from the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs at Syracuse University in their Masters of Public Administration program, I believe. That's what the MPA acronym is for, correct? Yeah. Using my brilliant powers of inductive reasoning. And stating the obvious here, and they have been working very closely with Montgomery County here. I'm just going to read you a little frame job into this. To develop at a conceptual level a regional approach to wastewater management in western Montgomery County. The students have assessed existing conditions by reviewing all extant engineering reports and meeting with operational staff at the wastewater treatment facilities in St. Johnsville, Canajoharie, and Montgomery County Sewer District Number 1. The capstone team has further reviewed all relevant fiscal documents, outlined existing governance structures, and considered salient operational and maintenance issues. The capstone team recommends that a regional approach to wastewater management can be best achieved through the expansion of Montgomery County Sewer District Number 1 to include the systems in Canajoharie and St. Johnsville. The students will discuss how a consolidation can work in terms of coordinated engineering solutions, governance structure, administrative structure, and fee structure. It is important to understand that the recommendations have been made without the benefit of detailed engineering studies and cost estimates, and as such, are intended to provide general guidance to the county and its local government partners as it moves forward to address the challenges and opportunities associated with modernizing wastewater management in western Montgomery County. As an aside, I was made aware of this yesterday, and there's kind of an emergency we're looking at here because part of their ability to achieve a good grade in this means they had to come to the legislature and make a presentation before Friday when the marks are due. Right? June 15th, is that correct?
Yeah.
So they were an emergency add-on to our agenda tonight, but we're certainly happy to have them here. Well, they're bright faces, and certainly they're going to give us a quick overview of what they've been working on. And please help me, the students here tonight, and please stand up when I read your name, just so everybody can identify a face with a name. Greg Ambrose, Isabella Baker, Rachel Baker, Paige Heinrich, and Gaurav Pandey. Did I pronounce that right?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so hearing all of that intro here, I don't know what your plan was, but if you want to approach the podium individually, collectively, certainly the floor is yours, and we welcome you here this evening.
So it's just going to be me for the Rachel.
Okay, Rachel.
For the main presentation, but if you have any questions, we are all available to answer them. We just want to keep it short and clear. So we just thank you for that wonderful introduction. You've covered a lot of what I'm going to cover today, so I hope there's not that much replication in what I say now. But thank you for having us. We're really excited to share with you the work that we've done over the past 3 weeks. It's been very interesting. This is a topic we didn't know a lot about initially, and it was very interesting to see how important this really is for the region. So thank you. So in our title, you might have noticed that we use the word water recovery, which is not a traditional word to talk about wastewater. And the reason for this is that wastewater, when you think of it, generally sounds like a dirty water that we're never going to use, that it's wasted, and then it just goes away somewhere and we don't know where it goes. So you envision probably that picture on the left instead of the picture on the right, which is what a wastewater treatment plant looks like. They take water that is dirty, they clean it, and they return to the natural environment. So they recover that water for use again in the future potentially, or just to go back into the system, into the environment. So currently, this is a little small, but there are 3 different systems, the one at St. Johnsville, the Montgomery County Sewer District, and the Canajoharie District. They were all built in the early 1970s. The Canajoharie plant had a big upgrade and finished in 2015, but the other 2 are still, have had some upgrades, but the infrastructure is still mostly from the 1970s. Beyond that, the infrastructure from the plant all the way to people's homes is ranging from new to 100 years old. So there's lots of flaws within the age in the system and need of investment to bring it up to speed. So currently, this is the dark blue is the average capacity, the light blue is their permanent capacity. We put the average capacity for dry days, because on dry days, generally there's a low amount of water in each of the system. However, if it rains or when snow melts, you could see upwards of 3 million gallons in the Montgomery County District, for example. Their average summer day is 300,000. When it rains, you get 3 million. That's a big swing. And so you range from having, it just kind of works itself, to you're kind of in a panic crisis mode because there could be too much, you could be paying fines. because you're exceeding your permits. You could be bypassing water directly into the river because you can't treat it all, you can't hold it all. And so it looks like there's a lot of extra capacity in each of these systems based on what's not being used. And there is on a dry day, but on a rainy day, all of these systems can be at maximum or near maximum capacity, and that could last for more than one day. It could be a number of days. And the reason for this is called inflow and infiltration. And so this is caused by aging infrastructure, which I mentioned earlier. And so inflow is when there are connections to the sewer drains that shouldn't be there. So if there's some pumps that are connected, roof drains that are connected, if there's manhole covers that are in need of repair, rainwater just goes directly into the system. And infiltration is groundwater that gets in. And so the main thing here is that you're raising the amount of water in each of the systems, which raises the cost of operations, which puts wear on all of the machinery and just generally increases cost. But additionally, you're cleaning water that doesn't need to be cleaned. And so you're adding this extra tax in the system that doesn't need to be there. And so we originally didn't think of this as being the first problem. As we dug deeper and as we spoke to the operators and the mayors in these towns, this was really identified as a major concern because you see that big fluctuation on dry days versus wet days. And so our first recommendation really is to address this issue. And I know a lot of the towns have been working to address this. It's complicated when you have old infrastructure, but we think it's very important to take this first. The next challenge we looked at was the administrative challenges that each of these systems faces. And so since each of these systems are old, there's a lot of infrastructure that is not written down anywhere. There's no database of what exists, what condition it's in, when it's likely to need to be replaced. Most of that information lies in the memories of the operators. The operators know a lot about their plant. They've worked there sometimes for over 20 years, maybe 30 years, but there's no organized process to examine when am I going to need to replace this equipment, which avoids cost. Because if you're fixing things before they break, you avoid all the costs of fixing things after they've broken. And so that asset management system is literally just what do we own, what condition it's in, when are we going to need to replace it, and just keeping it all in one centralized location so that it's easy for everyone to access. Especially if you have someone who's been working there for 30 years and is looking to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. It's important to be able to hold on to that information. The next section that everyone talked about, and this is a problem kind of nationally, is attracting and retaining certified operators. It requires experience, years of experience working at each plant, education, training, and once you've certified an operator, there's a chance that they will find a job that's higher paying somewhere else because there are so few certified operators. We brainstormed lots of ideas like starting pathways from a younger age at the resources you have in the county, including the community college, and just getting people interested in the process because it is an important and fascinating biological process that goes on. And just having the potential with the regional system to be able to compete in terms of compensation so that you don't have people leaving for the town over, or the county over, or a different state because they're able to pay you more. The third challenge that we identified was securing funding. So some of the operators mentioned difficulty securing grant funding or securing other funding to invest in improvements. And a regional approach where you have a larger system, you have improved access to that. And I'm going to get into more detail on exactly what that means in a little bit. And then just finally, there will be future regulations in the future that are going to be more stringent. There will be changes, and so you need to prepare as best you can for those changes. This is the current structure of the 3 different plants. In terms of the government structure, they're all different, distinct. It's just for thank you. And so we recommend this regional approach and an expanded wastewater district to handle the challenges that I mentioned before. And so there is a potential solution, a proposed solution, but the engineering studies have not been completed of having 2 pump stations sending the water downstream to Canajoharie and updating the capacity so there's still room for economic development and for new businesses to come in and take advantage of the wastewater capacity that exists. Yes, so, and this regional approach really allows you to do things collectively that you can't do by yourself. It allows you to increase access to funding, it allows economies of scale, which reduce cost. You're good, this is fine. And with that expanded approach, we have a few recommendations for how this should be run and how it should operate. So first, expand membership on the board to include the new towns. We want to try to unify responsibility for wastewater collection and treatment. In the county district currently, each of the villages are in charge of the sewer lines. Once it gets into the pump stations, it's then the county's responsibility. And so the county's responsibility. And so then there's kind of a fragmentation of operations, of maintenance, and there would be potential to improve service delivery and to reduce costs if it was all under one system. We believe that all existing staff should retain their positions and be redeployed in this expanded system. This would create economies of scale, as I said, reduce costs, and improve access to funding, which is the next slide. We strongly recommend a comprehensive adoption of asset management practices, which was I mentioned earlier, both to improve the management and operations of the facility and just reduce the costs. It's a time-intensive process, but it is not a cost-intensive process. And so if you were wondering what all those staff are going to do, this is definitely a place where they can use their expertise and build that system to keep an accurate representation of what they have and reduce costs. And then finally, we think the fee structure should account for prior investments by individual communities and encourage water conservation for households. So there are some systems where the household rate goes down the more water you use. But if you reduce the flows of water to the plant, you can reduce the cost of operating the plant. And just encouraging water conservation in general so that there is still that large access to water and to wastewater for economic development. So this is just some of the opportunities that are available when you have a more regional approach. So there's access to funding from the New York State Department of State through grant funds for these types of intermunicipal partnerships. Same with the Department of Environmental Conservation, the Environmental Facilities Corporation, and the Homes and Community Renewal Department. So all four of these are available because of this collaboration and because of this expanded approach. And finally, if you have this more robust administration, you can prepare better funding applications and perhaps demonstrate the ability to really implement those projects, and so you might be more likely to receive the grant funding. So just to sum everything up in one slide, this regional approach increases access to funding, it leads to cost savings, it streamlines administration and operations, it increases opportunity for economic development, and has the potential to reduce environmental impact. Thank you.
Rachel, thank you very much. I have a couple of questions before I put it on the floor to my fellow legislators. Just curious, how long did all of you work on this project during this semester? You know, from when to when?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. And it was 3 recent weeks?
The last 3 weeks.
Okay, all right.
This is our 4th week.
And just another question I have, and I guess maybe this is more for perhaps County Executive Ossenford. When we're presented a valuable piece of information like this, something that we, may be able to use to our benefit as a county going forward, some of it, all of it, whatever. How do we avoid this sitting on a shelf someplace and actually attempt to implement some of this, especially when you can see that it involves, different villages, townships, and parochialism, within that whole structure to overcome that.
Sure. As you know, we put our big efficiency plan together that had a whole number of initiatives. This was one of them. And there were a number of those that we actually applied through the municipal restructuring fund and are awaiting funding awards on those. We do feel like they're coming, we're just waiting for the approval process. The next step would be to craft a municipal restructuring fund application to do some of the engineering work that needs to be done, and that's what we plan to do.
Oh, great,
So we have a few that, when we looked at that list of over 10 initiatives, this wasn't ready for an MRF fund application. That's why we tasked them with doing this. But this is a great first step for us to then use and then apply for grant funding to further it to get to the point we can have a solid plan that we can look at.
and so it sounds like you do have a plan in place right now, Executive Ossenfort,
Yes.
to use this information going
When
forward.
we applied for the $20 million, which if anybody's guessing, still has not been announced, we knew that there was good stuff in that plan that we wanted to continue. So we looked at all the other possible funding streams to get some of that stuff implemented. So we're just going to continue to do that over the course of the next few years, and I'm hoping that we'll have an announcement. It's at least in the 6 figures of some grant funding for these projects in the very near future.
Great,
This would be phase 2, so to speak, or the second round.
all right. I do want to commend Bill Rohr for his involvement in this. He is our connection to the Maxwell Institute, and we appreciate Bill's involvement here in putting these valuable young minds to use. Does any of the rest of the team want to comment on anything before I put questions on the floor to the fellow legislators? Anybody want to add anything to Rachel's? No?
Highly recommend everybody goes and tours a water recovery facility. It's really an incredibly educational experience, and it totally changed how all of us view this process in general.
Okay. Chairman Hebb.
I was a chairman of a wastewater plant for 25 years. What, your presentation, you hit it right on the mark. I mean, the things you brought up, a lot of the issues you brought up, staffing, I&I, all those things, the equipment in the building, the operator knows all the equipment, no one else knows when it was maintained, all of those things. So your presentation and stuff, you hit the mark. I mean, you really did. And spending 3 weeks doing this at a wastewater plant, you really paid attention, and you folks did a great job.
Thank you.
Legislator Patel, second.
You know, we had discussions in the past as legislature talking about the Montgomery County District, and we don't provide a lot of oversight to it, and we don't have any financial participation in it either. Is it a possibility that this could be self-sustaining without the county?
Yeah, I believe that would be the goal. It's how most wastewater plants operate, on the user fees, which cover the operations and maintenance. So that's generally how it would work. We didn't go into the details of that, but that would be the idea. It should be the way it goes.
Legislator Kelly.
I know the county district and Montgomery a few years ago were talking about consolidating. Did you use any of that?
We looked at some of that material, yes. A lot of it, the stuff that we had found, also just talking to the operators that worked there, a lot of it was similar. We did look at that.
Because it was headed down that track, but then coming up with who's going to pay what. Well, the Montgomery plant still has the bonding and stuff for when they improve for a company that is no longer in that end of the county. They wanted the Fort Plain, Nelson, and Valentine to pick up and cover some of that ad valorem and stuff, and that's why the main reason why the parties went separate ways. Do you lay out a blueprint on how, if they were to come back to the table, an economical and feasible way for them to join together?
We didn't come up with anything specifically for that scenario. However, most of the consolidations that we researched throughout the country, when multiple municipalities joined their services together, they the new unified district assumes the
All
debt.
all.
And that gave me a better ability to finance that.
So somebody from Fort Plain would be, they'd spread it out and cover improvements from St. John's and other districts.
There also have to be an update to maintain like the ideal levels of capacity into the plants. There have to be further upgrades that everyone would benefit from as well. So that's definitely a potential.
I'd like a methane digester.
Any other questions? Yes, Legislator Jesse.
That is outstanding work in a short period of time. In another capacity, I learned a lot of those lessons very slowly and painfully, but if you could just touch upon just a little bit more about, because I'm interested, I know that these plants are typically, they don't have significant capacity. They all violate their speedies permits on a regular basis during those conditions that you outlined. So how does consolidation, again, if you just touch upon it just one more time about consolidation and capacity, how
So that was why we did the portion on the inflow and infiltration. Because a lot of the capacity issues come from that, as well as if you have combined sewers, combined storm and sanitary sewers. And so we really recommend that be the very, very first step before you can move to deal with those capacity issues. And the engineering firm that we talked to said, you look at the biggest offenders, the biggest problems that you can fix and minimize as much of that I&I as possible. They said you can't get rid of all of it, but that would really be the very first step.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Executive
I
Officer.
just want to thank the students for your job. We also have Minch Lewis here from Syracuse University, who's supposed to be the fly on the wall, but he's been a great friend and a great help to the county. And I just want to make sure that, we recognize him being here. We really appreciate all you've done. And also thanks to Bill for coordinating all this. It has been a hectic 3 weeks, but I'm happy we were able to squeeze it in, and thank you for taking the time to listen to the presentation tonight.
Thank you.
Well, I just love to come to a committee meeting for a county legislature. I was a county legislator in Onondaga County for a number of years. I chaired the Ways and Means Committee, and had great experience in terms of dealing with all the financial issues. And I'm really excited about seeing all the good work that you're doing here. And very glad, I'm the professor for the advisor for the group, so I have to do the grade.
How'd they do?
I'll tell you. It was a lot easier to come up with, a good grade for this group based on all your comments and questions. So I'm very grateful.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just one last question. How did you determine who was going to speak to us tonight?
Oh, Rachel used to be a teacher,
Ah.
so made it pretty easy.
Did a good job. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Rachel, Isabella, Greg, Paige, and Dora, thank you very much. All right.
Do we get tickets to Cubes now?
To the dome. All right, the next item on our agenda, this is the month that our Department of Social Services was scheduled to come on in and speak to us today about the exercise that we asked of all of our major departments, which was the hypothetical, if you could cut 15% from your budgets, hypothetically, where would it come from? How would it affect services? So here to present tonight, Michelle Russo and Mike McMahon. And please come on up and get the ball rolling.
Oh, we're on down.
Tim Ball's here with us tonight as well from Bonadillo as a support and resource for this exercise as well.
I would like to mention also Chair Tom Lippy, who is fully embedded. He's been there 5 months now, so he's got a feel for what's going on.
Okay, great.
And
Thanks.
he's part of this, he's full part of this exercise, and I would say that this was a valuable exercise for the leadership team in that we did really dig in and really kind of look at everything. I looked at the impact of what if we did this, and with the budget, as you know, our budget is about 85% mandated by federal and state. So, you look at it, it's a $29 million budget. $24 million of that is we can't touch. I mean, we could touch the Medicaid local share, which is $11.5 million. We could touch that. We could eliminate that. You have the political courage to do that. We'd all be heroes. There'd be a parade tomorrow for you guys. But you know, obviously we can't touch this. So really that 24 million, which is family assistance, heat, Medicaid, you know, is, we really can't go. So you're looking at that 4 million. And so that's really kind of where we began. Part of the exercise too looked at, if we remove it or we cut it from our budget, it may fall back to other county budgets. So we are, you know, paying or supporting other county budgets, IT, DPW, the sheriff's office, and we would look to cut those and move those into another budget as part of this exercise. The other thing is that this exercise does not address, it really doesn't address the 2019 impacts and challenges that are coming at us. So we're just looking at cuts. We're not looking, okay, here's what else is happening. We'll leave that for another day. But we have to be cognizant of that there are things that are going to be challenging us in 2019. Some of those things, just to be broad, is homelessness is on the rise. The unabated opioid crisis is causing our foster care numbers to drive upwards, as well as homelessness and other programs. And it all doesn't really fully address raise the age, which is coming at us, raise the criminal age of the 16-year-olds this year in 2018, and then the 17-year-olds, which will be next year. So we don't know what that's going to look like. A lot of that has an impact on how the DAs are going to operate, and certainly our family court judge and other judges. So those things are still left on the table. So to cut 15% of a $29 million budget really comes to a dollar number of about $4.4 million. Okay, so to net $4.4 million, Michelle would have to cut somewhere probably between 6 and 7 million, just because of the way the DSS dollar is not like the DPW dollar. Okay, it's not similar because you got that reimbursement. So you would be looking more like almost a 25% cut to the budget if you were to cut out $6 to $7 million. You know, I told you about 85% of the mandate. So our personnel line alone is $4.2 million. So that's, you could wipe out the personnel line completely, 115 people. And then Tom and I would take over, he'd answer the phone, and Michelle would she'd go down answering. So that would be an easy cut, right? 115.5, right? So looking at potential cuts, so getting into that, no, we're not going to lose personnel. Don't write that, please, press. Don't want that the headline tomorrow morning. Is to eliminate things that really save us money. And I'll give you some examples. One is a program called Stepping Stones. It's a prevention program that works with kids that are, you know, in high school that are having problems or there are challenges to their teachers and to their families. So these are children that will probably end up as placements in foster homes. And this program works with them. It costs the county $180,000 a year. Of that, $68,000 is the county share. Okay, so if you cut that, you get $68,000 back as your local share. The thing is, your foster care placements will go up 1.5 million. And we just talked to Berkshire. They track the numbers of where they prevent placements or reduce placements, and that's $1.5 million. You would see in another line. So these are, well, of course, prevention programs they're reimbursed at 62% and 38% local. So that's we have a few of those. You probably wouldn't want to go there, but that's one place you would cut. The other things we would cut is probably the FMCC pilot program that we have going on with the college. This is where we are bringing clients that are safety net clients, so it's very expensive. There's 71% local share. We're bringing them through this course. It's a 1 month long. We're doing it at Riverfront Center. The FMCC is providing the instructors, and we're preparing these folks for jobs. Because we know they're coming, there's jobs. The economy is actually doing much better. We all know that. So we're preparing these folks to get jobs, and certainly we're looking at jobs down the road. Your savings there would be, you have that, Michelle? You have about 2,000?
That program actually is, right now, we're looking at a $24,000 expenditure, and we are reimbursed the state and local money, state and federal money at 85%. So we would be a loss of revenue of roughly 20.5.
And you'd be local share, local savings, you got 3,600. Yeah. So now, the thing about this program, you gotta remember, yes, we're preparing people for jobs. And they're getting certified, they're coming out drug-free, and that's how we're approaching the companies that have hired them. If they are drug-free, they've gone through the skills course. Now, the other thing is if they don't complete the program, okay, then we sanction them, we cut off the benefits. So there's a cost savings there. It'd be hard to kind of detail what that is. The other thing is that we've seen clients who start this program get a job immediately. So they attend for 3 days and then they're gone, but that's because of working. So that's another benefit to this. And so we wouldn't want to cut that, but that's where we would go because that's local money and it's something it's not mandated. So we're looking at non-mandated programs. Another one that we would probably look at is our security. Security is not a mandate. There's no mandate that we have to provide security. In this case here, we have a deputy sheriff and 3 part-timers. We would be saving somewhere to the tune of the local savings would be about $23,000. I would not recommend to cut our security, especially in this day and age. They're very valuable, both in this location and certainly in Amsterdam.
Where are they used, Mike? Explain to where the security is.
Security, the front end, pretty much, we have a desk out here. You see, you walk by it. We have 3 part-timers that rotate through here all week. So they're doing traffic control. They're doing everything. They're providing security outside, inside, and they're helping with DMV. You have customer service issues there sometimes. So
Okay.
you really would not want to. I would not recommend cutting that. But that is a local, non-mandated program. So we would go. That's where we were looking. Another thing is that you look at eliminating the Amsterdam satellite office. Because once again, I think you eliminate a lot of efficiencies if you close that down, because we are engaging with certainly our customer base, our client base is heavily in the Amsterdam area. Somewhere between about 70% of our SNAP clients are from there. We're also engaging with community engagement with our partners. It was the reason why we moved there. But once again, it's not mandated. To close that down, okay, and bring everybody back, you would save $28,000 a year. However, your transportation costs would soar. Okay, because right now you're not having to deal with that. Mm-hmm. And remember, you don't have an Amsterdam bus service anymore. That folded on April 30th of this year. So I think you would actually lose money in that sort of cut. Others would be eliminating the contract with Interfaith Partnership for the Homeless, which would be, we had about 100 people that were homeless this year. The good thing about having a shelter is that there's caseworkers there that actually work with the homeless individuals and families right off the bat. So you're really identifying what the underlying issues are, jobs, mental health issues, and getting them actually in a house or an appropriate placement right there. Prior to having a shelter, okay, so 8 years ago, we would use solely hotels. And you put them in hotels, there's no casework going on. They're kind of out of sight, out of mind, if you will. And so it doesn't really help the situation. Yet you're paying a premium dollar to house them in hotels around the county. So we would, seek to eliminate any contract with them. And eliminating the Wheels to Work program, which is provided to us by Fulmont. That'd be a $15,000 savings to you. It's just revenue. It's no outlay. The other things that we looked at is not just cuts, but what can we increase revenue. And one of those areas, we're looking at increasing our 4E money, which is that foster care money that I think Tim talked about. I think you mentioned it in your presentation last month. That's money that we can bring in for our foster care kids that are eligible. And Tim's going to work with us. Tom's been working with other counties and trying to build a team. So we can see there, we can probably bring in some more revenue.
Any idea on that number, Mike?
Tom, any idea? Yeah, 1 to 2 million.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of wickets with 40 you have to jump through. There's some big changes coming through some of the legislation that happened at Congress this year. But I think Tim's team is going to look at some of the dollars we can kind of scrape out now with current cases. So that's one area.
I like the idea that, you're thinking of ways to increase revenue as well. You know what I mean? Because that's another way to skin a cat there. you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So another area that is fairly new, it's new to me, is continuum of care money, which in this state, there's only 5 counties that are not involved with a continuum of care. What that is, it's HUD money. And whatever reason, politics or whatever, when the state went into this and asked counties if they wanted to be involved, there's 5 counties that didn't go in. One was Putnam, Herkimer, Schoharie, Fulton, and Montgomery. This happened about 15 years ago. So I've been to 3 meetings now of talking to the state to see how can we get in, because we're leaving money on the table. This is between $100,000 and $300,000 a year that we could be getting from HUD to support our housing. You know, housing is one of our big issues. It's very hard to find good housing stock in Montgomery County. So that would be a revenue that will come in that we're not realizing now. So I can't promise that will be in 2019, but I'll be in a meeting in September that the state's trying to help us do this. Almost every county in the country has a continuum of care, except for these 5 counties in New York State. Anyway.
No, that was my question. It's called, that program's Continuum of Care?
Yes. So it's HUD money, federal HUD money, and it's usually operated by a nonprofit. In the Albany area, it's CARES is a company that runs that for them. Yeah, it's a lot too. You have to create a board, and if you get partners in to help you run that program, but I think we have to at least explore this because there is money there. So I've been in meetings with Fulton County, Schoharie. The only one's kind of outlined, it's kind of funny, it's Putnam's way down lower in the Hudson Valley, but they're left out too. So it's very hard to combine together, like all of us, with one so far away. So anyhow, that's an idea of where we could probably find some. We're looking at miscellaneous grants, SNAP grants, CPS enhanced funds. This is something that Tom's group gets to pay for overtime for caseworkers. These are grants that we get almost every year, so we want to bring that in. And then looking at consolidation and bringing we was talking about bringing the Youth Bureau and the veterans, into this health and human services type of an organization. We could actually probably bring in some revenue, at least reimbursed for at least some of the Youth Bureau positions, or at least a portion of their costs. Because we looked at other counties, and I forget how many counties have the Youth Bureau. Michelle, remember? 20 maybe. A good portion of counties do have a Youth Bureau under the DSS for reimbursement. They're working with clientele youth, as Tom's group is working with foster care, adoptions. It's similar. The casework's very, very similar. So that's ideas. And then enhancing our fraud recovery is another thing that Tim and I have talked about. Our team is doing really good with fraud recovery. You don't see the newspaper articles all the time anymore because it's being done through the state police. But we brought in some big fraud recoveries this year, and we want to keep doing that. So that's just some areas where we think we can grow revenue. Also, we're looking at decreases coming up this year. So programs where we would have maybe added money, we're looking at decreases. One of those is the family assistance. And this is just, we're looking at trends. We're thinking the family assistance trend will decrease. Juvenile delinquents have dropped. It's been a trend, as well as physically handicapped children. So, once again, just for family assistance, we're dropping from the 2018 was 3.8 million. We're going to decrease that to 3.5 million for 2019. Juvenile delinquents, 810,000 down to 700,000, and the physically handicapped children from 500,000 to 375. So we're just looking at trends and looking at what we can reasonably cut.
You don't think JDs will go back up or raise the age?
Well, that's it's kind of a guess right now. Is how will judges and DAs, how will they behave, as far as making those decisions? We've actually put money in to raise the age in the line.
Correct, we actually separate out our GD and our raise the age.
Right.
The budget line, just because the raise the age, providing we stay under the tax cap, will be reimbursed 100%.
Right. So it's reimbursed. We think we'll get the reimbursement for raise the age for at least 5 years, and then it'll go to the county. That'll give us a while to figure out how it's going to work.
Executive Officer.
And just as a tidbit on the radiation, talking to Lucille, my understanding is, the impact on us is not going to be like some of the other bigger counties where you're talking hundreds, you know, it might mean 5 to 10 different types of cases a year, but thankfully, it's a manageable amount, from what I understand. 'Cause I know there's a lot of raise the age, you keep hearing about it, you know, and I think we need to keep in mind that the population there is not huge, but something to be.
I agree. I think one of the things we have to look at though, in raising age populations, these kids are coming out of prisons, okay? They're coming out of state prison, they're coming back into the community, they're coming back into the care of the commissioner. Is we need to have community-based programs to keep them doing something, so that going back to the prevention program, stepping stones, Berkshire Farms has actually created enhanced stepping stones to address having these children doing something. You know, are they gonna go back to high school? Maybe, maybe not. So you don't want them really just kind of languishing around something. You really want to have them engaged in something that's community-based. Sure. So, once again, that would be a program you'd want to expand on in prevention dollars. That's about all I had, you know, but I think, Michelle, do you have anything that I missed that,
In terms of just, you know, some other ideas that we had for cutting in this exercise, not that we were cutting any positions, but the commissioner had mentioned about moving some line items that fall under DSS budget and moving those back out to other respective departments. Or the fact that the expenditure would go to them, or they would lose revenue that they currently charge to DSS. One of those line items would be right now for the county mail is under the DSS budget, and that roughly costs us over $128,000. So at one point, it was prior under DPW. We took over that role and had it come under DSS so that we could cover half of the cost of the salary of the mail specialist. So that position, right now we get reimbursed for his salary about $17,500. So it would move about $128,000 out of our budget, but would move that to someone else's, whether it be DPW or either to another entity, another budget. The commissioner had mentioned about eliminating the security staff, including the deputy sheriff in Amsterdam and the 3 part-time people here. We currently have 12 open positions that we are trying to fill at the moment. That was one of the other items that in this exercise that to try to obtain the 15% reduction that we were looking for. Right now, the expenditures associated with those 12 open positions account for almost $410,000. And with that $410,000 also adds about $216,000 for fringe. The fringe, however, is not under DSS budget, that's under the personnel budget. So with these, it was kind of guesstimated on an average reimbursement rate because each of the positions are reimbursed at a different rate based on what program they fall under. So I averaged it out to about 62% reimbursement rate. So we would roughly lose about $254,000 in revenue. So as the commissioner mentioned, you can ask us to cut expenditures, but with that, because because our expenditures are reimbursed, goes with that out the door.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I think we get that point now, and it's really not a good exercise to keep listing examples whereby the proposal would not work and will cost us more money. That's really kind of pointless to continue to discuss in that vein. And I understand fully the position you're in with respect to those programs, but really there's no need to go on, I think, in that fashion. It's not helpful to us.
Legislator Patel.
So it's understandable you can't cut 15%. I mean, that's a lofty goal, and we realize that. You talked about increasing revenues, which I think is great, which offsets the costs or your bottom line. If 15% isn't possible, it means a 1% savings, not including shipping, income, and/or employees possible. It's more realistic than 15%.
Yeah, I'm not sure you'll find the savings in employees, just Michelle said, you got certain employees that are, got it broke down 100% for employment, 100% for Medicaid, SNAP 100%, some were 78%, some were 80%. You're not gonna find the money there. Where you're gonna find the money is trying to reduce your safety net line, you know, try to get people off the system, try to get them employed. That's what we're gonna find. That's where you're gonna find the 1%. I think we did a contingent for the side-by-side budget that shows what we'll compare what we think we can do next year. But it doesn't get close to 15%. So we were sticking totally on the 15% for this.
Well,
At 15%, I think we all knew was a lofty and unrealistic goal. I guess my point is it possible for 1 year to shift the trend of increasing the budget? We talked about increasing revenues, which certainly would help that.
Well, the only to address that is 2 years ago, we did eliminate 2 positions, which got picked up one got picked up in another department. And then last year, we cut a contract that was just not performing well, and we saved $80,000. Well, we saved 40. We brought it in-house with one employee, we saved $80,000. So we've done cuts like that. Your moving to Amsterdam was a.
So can we look forward to something like that this year?
Well, like I said, we haven't addressed any challenges for 19. We're trying to do it without increasing any positions. We haven't addressed, we're not adding any, which we're trying to hold on to the ones we have.
Unfortunately, if I can interrupt, Commissioner, just with, we can certainly make the cuts you guys are looking for, but based on right now where we are in current trends, some of the programs like foster care, Commissioner mentioned safety net, and our state training schools, which are the kids that are in OCFS care, those numbers are dramatically increasing. And when I was asked to cut the budget for 2018, I informed everybody, be prepared for us to come back to you guys at some point this year and probably ask for more money. That's going to be the case most likely this year, and I can tell you if you ask me to cut it for next year, that's definitely going to be the case. I mean, I'm happy to give you the numbers and the cuts that everyone would like to see, but unfortunately we have, a lot of these expenses are out of our control, so.
Well, and that's what it seems to me. I mean, you set the stage and framed it right out of the gate, which is you have a $29 million budget, 85% of it is out of your control. That leaves about $4 million and change that is within your control. Now, as you listed these things that we do not necessarily have an example of that we could add up in our own head, I mean, and I was going to ask you that, you know, certain things, do you have a total on what all those things talked about or added up to that you talked about that somewhere on your report, what do you got? You got a figure there, Michelle?
It did. We looked at a total reduction of expenditures of $1,097,313, which then equals a loss of revenue of $731,000 and change.
All right, well then those are not cuts that are, those are cuts that pertain to that 85% that's out of your control, correct?
No, they
that's
not. That's your security,
that's within our
yeah.
control.
Okay.
But even though they'd be moving out of DSS, they would be picked up in other departments, so the net result.
It's a shift, right.
It's a shift.
It's not a cut, yeah.
Mike?
Yes, executive officer.
So I think, you know, I'd just like to add here, obviously this is a complex budget with a lot of ins and outs and we got to do a lot of work on this. I think the first step that we had last month, kind of doing an overview and then going through this exercise, has really created for us what needs to happen between now and budget. Is we need to focus on what we can control, and that's that $4 million, and that's what we got to look at as far as, you know, what we can do, what we can't do, and what tough decisions we may or may not have to make. And that's going to be the discussion as we go to it. And I think for my purposes, as I put the executive budget together, you know, after you've digested some of this, I think the big question is what, you know, can we live with some of those cuts in services that, you know, whether it's security or other things. But that's where I think we really want to hone in on that $4 million from now until budget time. And I'll tell you right now, we're a heck of a lot farther in the process than we were in previous years because of this exercise. So I just wanted to.
Legislator Kelly.
And maybe it's not necessarily cutting $4 million, but maximizing our efficiency so that the other costs associated with these things are reduced.
Yes, exactly.
All right, yes, Legislator Sweet.
I just want to go back to one of the points you made about helping people find jobs. since we all know the economy is growing, I drive around and I've seen more help wanted signs than I've seen in probably 20 years. What are we doing as a county to help people get off of assistance, to get into jobs that should help reduce, maybe not cost here, but, I mean, it will, but I mean, throughout the state?
Well, we have an employment unit that is embedded in DSS. They do manage and help clients do job searches and support them in that. I mentioned the FMCC, the pilot we're doing with them, the pilot that we have at least get sold on with the final product will be. So we are, kind of pushing that, and they are required to do work requirements. Some, not all clients. They're required to be out doing job search and doing resume and doing, skill building. They're required. So that's, we're doing it in different spots. Yeah, and you're right, the economy's getting better. Yeah. As a matter of fact, the ABOD program, which I think I mentioned to you, that's the able-bodied adults without dependents, are a group that has been waived to having to do job searches and actually participate in work requirements. That's going to change because of the economy. And so we're prepared to start working with them. These folks aren't getting a lot of SNAP money, but they're getting something that they're not actually involved in any work activities. So that the waiver is going to come to an end this year. Next year, we are prepared to work with about 280, I think, work with about 280 clients who fall into that category. And so we'll be looking heavily to get them into the pilot programs, to get their skill trained. Many of them will close their cases when they're forced to go to a work requirement. They'll close their cases, so you'll get some benefit there. Just can't tell you how.
So are you starting to see numbers decline?
In some areas, I think we saw that family assistance has dropped a little bit. It's too early to tell because we don't have the main numbers, but there is a slight decline.
And I know we don't have a lot of say over a lot of these mandates, but I would think that you would see that trend start to happen when there are jobs for people to have.
Yeah, I think that's why I think we started this pilot with the colleges to get ahead of it. Even though 2019, I think they're going to start operations in 2019, maybe early, is to have a developed workforce that can walk in there with a certificate of training and say, look, I'm ready to work. I'm drug free on this course, and start making $20 an hour with benefits. That's a real change in their life trajectories to get a job such as that right off the bat. That is a game changer for us, and we hope that there's more economic opportunities coming down the pipe for us. I think that's going to save some of your budget.
Okay. All right, any other questions for the commissioner and Michelle? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say, Commissioner Michelle, I want to make clear that I really appreciate your time and effort here. I don't want to be misunderstood with respect to my comments on some of those things, but I get it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. Tim? All set, Tim?
I mean, I will say just a little bit.
Please.
And I'll be very brief. So this exercise was phenomenal, I think, and it's a really good exercise to put these guys through, whether they liked it or not. A couple of things that Matt hit on that I've been thinking about a lot over the past few weeks is just this county alone. I mean, your number that you're concentrating on for your DSS is that $4 million. That is your local share. So yeah, you have a budget of 29 million, but you have a mandated amount that you have to pay for Medicaid of 11, and a lot of the rest of that money is reimbursed. It's money for money. So when you spend it, you get a percentage of it back. But that 4 million is your local share that you're really trying to bite into if you want to save money. And unfortunately, every time you try to take a chop out of that, you lose revenue on the other side of it, because on a general sense, every expenditure that your DSS has gets reimbursed at least 62%. There's only a few things, very rare, that you're not getting some level of reimbursement for. So when they talk about security and things like that, yeah, you are getting a general savings, but you're losing a service that you're paying a discounted rate to receive. So you have to think about that. So the biggest things that, what I really like to see is that they were able to put this together. And we had some meetings today and discussed through these. And Michelle put together actually very good numbers, some of the better I've seen from a county to do this exercise. So I'm pretty satisfied with the things that they came up with. I think that going forward, these are the things that we need to concentrate on. The first is efficiency, and Martin, you brought it up. We did this exercise, if you recall. I don't know how many of you were in the room a few years ago when I presented, but we did this exercise where I came in and brought in my team, and we looked at efficiency in the Department of Social Services. And at that time, I told you from a staffing perspective, you were pretty much right where you needed to be and the services that you were offering. Let's keep that in mind. So if you were to look at some of these vacancies or you were to look at some of these positions, service that you're offering in this community, mandated service particularly, may suffer. And the alternative to that is risk that, you know, the county may owe money if service is not rendered correctly to clients based on federal and state cases. Let's keep that. That's a very important thing. The other thing is if you break down that 4 million, you also have your contracts and equipment is the other side of that you have some money that you spend out there. But this county particularly is in between Albany and in between Syracuse. The providers and vendors that you have in here are limited. So when you're talking about these preventive services for cases, you don't have 30 options where you get to pick the most, the most efficient and the cheapest. You unfortunately have to go with what you have. And so you do your best to manage those contracts and you do your best to get the most out of them, but you are certainly limited and you still have to offer those services. If you stop offering preventive services that aren't mandated, your case counts will continue to balloon and you'll spend money in other areas instead. So you guys are in a situation that is sticky and is very tough. So the things I recommend is we continue to hammer at efficiency. We make sure that all the staff in this building and the Amsterdam office are as efficient as possible so that the employees are correct. The staff that are administering these programs are accurate. The next is we make sure we're continually in compliance so that we don't spend money because we're doing things incorrectly. The third is fraud recoveries. Mike mentioned it. I'm going to continue to pursue that over the next couple of months to make sure that you guys are getting the most out of your fraud recoveries and you're chasing after the right cases where you can actually recover money. And the last is accurate claiming in the 4E and federal market that we talked about. I just talked to Tom today. I'm going to bring in a team of auditors in the next month and a half and we're going to go through every non-4E case that you have and see if we can find some money. Last time we did that exercise, if you recall, I think it was 3 years ago, we found about $750,000. I'm hoping to do something similar. Again, the agency right now, and I hate to throw one under the bus, but we're falling down in that area in 4E eligibility, and it's because we've had a lot of turnover in that department, and unfortunately, there's a lot of money involved. So those are the things that we're going to hammer over the next couple months. And the way to save money in the DSS budget is to find money. It's not really to cut. You're really about as thin as you're going to get, unfortunately. So those are my comments. Do you have any questions based on that?
Jim, how far can you go back?
You can go back up to 24 months. Typically, when we do a 4E review, we only go back about 18. Because if we do find a case that we believe can be changed over to 4E, it typically requires us to go back, get court transcripts, get a bunch of other documentation, which takes time. So we don't want to do a fruitless effort where we're getting cases that are right near the deadline and we can't finish in time. So we concentrate on 4 to 4 months before the deadline. And we can go back and look, and I will pull the data to look at any case, even if it was open for a day. If a child was only placed for a day, we'll go back and make sure that eligibility was conducted on that case, because if we can recover a day, it's worth it.
So is that something we should be doing more often as a county?
I mean, as a county, this is the type of program that a lot of counties across the state are really struggling with. Eligibility in 4E is a big pain. There's a lot of very specific things that you have to do, and you have to have a good relationship with your courts. In this county, my understanding is that we do. It's a type of eligibility that's tough to perform. So I'm going to go back and re-perform the eligibility for a lot of those and make sure that through this time period in the last 18 months it was done correctly and that the case was taking, or the county was taking the right stance in eligibility. Some counties get scared because, you know, the feds will audit these and say, hey, did you do 4E correctly? And if you didn't, we're going to pull back and sanction you on those cases. So caseworkers obviously naturally are conservative when they're performing eligibility in these cases. Well, I'm here to tell you exactly what the guidelines are and to stick up for you guys should that be the case. So I perform a little bit differently in that manner. So I don't know if there'll be any savings. I actually, you know, to be honest, we hope there's not, so that means we've been doing it right all along. But if there is savings, we'll recognize them and we'll be able to talk about them in a couple months.
All right.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Tim. Thank you. All right, I'd like to thank you, Mike, and thank you, Michelle, for making your presentation. Tim, thank you for making yourself available here tonight.
Of course.
All right, and I'd like to call a 5-minute recess. We'll re-adjourn in 5 minutes. All right, now we can officially resume our budget workshop. All right, our next item on the agenda is the review of the 2017 aud. Of course, we know the story behind this, that it's typically filed by the end of April, and because of reconciliations pertinent to the world of Department of Social Services to claims filed in the last 6 months of 2017, and where our treasurer, Sean Bowerman, felt, and was accurately so, we didn't have the accurate information enough to file the aud. We had to wait for the reconciliations of the end of 2017 on the Department of Social Services claims to be taken care of before he could file the aud. The aud officially got filed. As you recall, last meeting, he was looking to get it done by the end of May. It happened a week later. It was filed by the end of last week, which was June 5th or 6th, somewhere in there. The outcome of the reconciliations, before we get into the aud, of the DSS reconciliations, it was a figure of about $1.9 million. That was the difference between the sum total of claims that we had recognized on our dashboard through December 31st, 2017. At face value, the actual claims came through for $1.9 million less. Now, keep in mind that when we're looking at a dashboard, that doesn't necessarily translate to our bottom line and our use of fund balance, dollar for dollar, because we're not looking at our, total amount of income and expenses while we're looking at these dashboards. We're looking at subsets of categories within them. However, the good news, as it pertains to the impact of that reconciliation, if any, on our aud, which is our report here, of our financial report done internally, so that our, and filed with the state, so that our auditors can finish our actual 12/31/17 numbers. The effect on our fund balance, and you have a sheet of paper here, you have the aud, it's been handed out to you in this blue covered book here, but you've also been given a handout here, because this is something that I spoke with Sean about. Also, Chairman Headwell had some input into this. The minute I knew that the dollar amount was gonna be about 1.2 million that we were gonna hit the fund balance for, I was pleased to hear that, to be honest with you, because it kept, it certainly, thinking about how potentially bad it could have been, knowing that the DSS claim hit was about 1.9 million, I certainly was encouraged to hear that the fund balance hit was only 1.2 million. But once we had that figure, and I called Chairman Headwell to let him know what it was, he brought up a good point, which was, hey, that's a pretty decent year end, and felt the way that I did about it. And remember, there were some expenditures that we had that were one-time expenditures that we had to hit fund balance for. And is there any way Sean can put that together? And using that input from Chairman Headwell, I also asked Sean to more or less reconcile for us how we arrived at our $1.2 million fund balance usage. Keeping in mind that we did a review in January and we looked at a historic use of fund balance, because the popular opinion is we file the budget, we put in a figure that's $3.5 to $4 million to help balance our budget, but we never really end up using that amount of money. And we had a review in January that showed that. As a matter of fact, we often use half of that or less. So when I saw that this was only 1.2 million and it was less than a third of what we had budgeted as far as fund balance usage, I certainly was pleased to hear that, and I hope you all feel the same. Now, that said, we are striving to reach a goal where we don't use any fund balance, and that's what some of this exercise is with our huge departments here, and trying to get them to think about cuts and revenue enhancements and things of that nature, so that someday we can get to a world where we use little to no fund balance to balance our budget. However, be that as it may, and knowing and taking a look at this sheet really is deep and detailed as this aud is, in my estimation, the biggest, the most relevant issue is, how much of our fund balance did we use to balance last year's budget? And here's the reconciliation of it all, and it's this handout that you were given that Sean put together. And as you can see, we started out budgeting, and remember, this is our unassigned fund balance. If you look, for instance, on, say, page 11, excuse me. If you look on page 13, you'll see that we have a fund balance at the end of the year of $13,300,298. However, that's not our that's our total fund balance. That includes other components. The one we're trying to manage is the unassigned fund balance. And the best page to look at when it comes to that is page 4. And if you look at page 4 towards the bottom of the page, you'll see that we started off 17 with 9.4 million, 9.418 million in the unassigned fund balance. And as of the end of 2017, we're at 8.2 million. So that's, there's your $1.2 million fund balance that we used to make to balance our budget, our actual usage for 2017. That said, looking at the handout that we were given by Treasurer Bowerman, you can see that we appropriated $3.897 million of our fund balance when we filed our budget. But going down, you can see there are various categories here that played into, and you look at the bottom line, $1,246,000, and that's how we got to our fund balance usage. So if you look at it, you can see there were year-end encumbrances of $161,000. There was a resolution for the Public Safety Center. These were some unforeseen expenditures where we had a tap fund balance for $120,000, roughly $119,489. Of course, we all remember the annex boiler replacement, and that was almost $106,000. And then there was some mental health forensic billing. Now, there were some other revenues that went into the management of this fund balance usage for 2017. Net sales tax was $1,226,000. Now, I know we all looked at the end of the year and we said, wow, we're up $1.8 million year over year with sales tax, but obviously, as you can see, Sean has indicated that the net figure to us after paying out the other municipalities' share of that was a net gain for us of $1,026,000. We had a pilot for the Beech Nut company who incurred a penalty last year for not making employment numbers. That brought $642,000 in revenue to us. There was some refunds of prior years' unexpended accounts payable of $240,000, almost $241,000, and the casino licensing. In 2017, not knowing what we were going to get, Sean wisely didn't budget anything for 2017, and we realized $236,000 for our share of the casino revenue sharing program. Now, my next question to him is how much did we put in for 2017? Excuse me, 2018, and he said $200,000. So that was also a conservative estimate if you look at this, because I think that's only going to grow. So $200,000, we should far exceed that revenue budget line item by the time this year's over. Keeping in mind the casino was new in 2017, it didn't open until February, the motel wasn't open associated with it for quite a long period of time. So it was wise for him not to budget any revenue from that, and we realized $236,000. And also, you can see there were some unexpended appropriations here. Buildings, $339,000, and I asked Sean for a breakout of that, and he listed here the two biggest components going into that. Utilities at $156,000 and repairs and maintenance agreements $89,000 that did not get expended. And I guess this kind of stuck out to me as well. You can see that there are two public safety sheriff-related line items here that did not get expended last year. The full and part-time employees at about $105,000, and equipment and repairs at about 61,000. And as far as the jail was concerned, you can see another full and part-time employees, 220,000, and medical fees, fuels, and food supplies of 103,000. So all the math here, you know, the 3897, 3,897,000, less these expenditures on the top, these unforeseen expenditures, plus these additional revenues, less these unexpended appropriations, lead us down to the $1.2 million figure for our fund balance usage. So I think all in all, you know, it was a good year in that regard. You know, looking at the report that we went over, and I you know, certainly keep these things, given my role here. You know, fund balance usage in 2016 was $1,467,000. Now, you know, we obviously 17, $1.2 million. So, I mean, we're going in the right direction. Again, I don't think we can ever be satisfied until we reach a point in time that we don't have to rely on fund balance at all, or are adding to fund balance every year. But in light of you know, some of the circumstances of last year, I think it ended up okay. Also, you know, reverting back to those unexpended appropriations there for the sheriff and the jail, although we didn't get a departmental report under those circumstances now where the sheriff will be leaving and a new sheriff will be elected this year. I guess it just didn't make sense for, you know, a departing county official to talk about cuts that they wouldn't be there to manifest. My point is this. To me, this tells me that, you know, without even making a presentation, there was some cuts really in those two worlds, or some budget adjustments in those two worlds that obviously more than made up a hypothetical 15% that you know, we're asking everybody to talk about how they're going to cut out of their 2019 budget, which should open all of our eyes to the fact that there's probably line items such as these in well, perhaps not the DSS budget because of the mandated nature of it, but you know, certainly in this one, there are line items that often don't get used of great magnitude that we need to be attentive to when we call these large departments back in for the budget review process in September.
That's exactly why we need year-to-dates and priors in our budget analysis so that we can see that.
Yes.
So we could see that this year, showing that we budgeted $500,000, but only spent half of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, so, I mean, other than that, that's all I have on the odd. You know, it's a very detailed and complicated form for all of us. Certainly, we're not going to sit here and go over this page by page. I think all of us, what we want to know is what's the bottom line, how did it affect our fund balance, and that's why I had Sean concentrate on that detail to give to us here this evening. Yes, Legislator Kelly.
Did we get a 16 kind of flow of the fund balance last year?
No.
Is it different? Because didn't we, one of our first resolutions, we shortchanged some contract, the sheriff was up in arms.
I can look at.
It seems we didn't have to transfer that money. There was something that we cut in the budget process that he wanted, something to do with medical.
Oh, was it positions?
No, it was a medical thing.
Oh,
We
okay.
shorted a contract.
Was that
Sean
Yeah,
Gesecki.
yeah, that was the contract went up significantly, but I'm not sure exactly how it went down. I'm not sure if you move out during the budget preparation process.
What's that?
It just seems we, you know, he comes in and asks for overtime, add to overtime because there's a shortage of employees at the jail and stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry. Set, Legislative Kelly? Are you set?
It would be,
No, I mean, you requested it and he said he could get it to us, right? Okay. Legislator Isabel.
Sean, on the sales tax that was attributed to gas increased prices or whatever,
you think, of the increase?
Like I said, when we get to the dashboard, I'll address that. You will see that sales tax is starting to uptick a little bit compared to last year. I would attribute some of that to the rising gas prices.
Legislator Kelly.
Are we still in the energy consortium? Are we locked in on the price?
We just locked in natural gas, but we've been lowering those prices for the last few years. We had an energy consulting broker for a time period. We went back to the energy consortium just recently, got some better pricing. So in addition, the better pricing along with the efficiency stuff that we've done has resulted in us saving some money on the utilities, for sure.
Sean, Chairman Hedwell just leaned into me. The year-end encumbrances of 161,000. Is that a probably a tough question for you to answer off the top of your head? An average amount that you see from year to year?
Yeah, because if you look at the AUD, you'll see at the end of 17 the amount was 176.
Oh, okay.
176,000. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it'll trend in that. It'll trend in that direction.
In that 150 to 200,000.
Okay.
On average.
All right. Any other dialogue or discussion regarding the odd?
I'll just finish if after you have a chance to look at it in detail, if you have any questions, feel free to call or email any questions.
All right, thank you. All right, on to our next bullet, the dashboard report. And looking at your dashboards, keeping in mind that these are through May 31st, 41% of our year, any revenue line items less than 36%, given our 5% tolerance criteria, and any revenue greater than 46% would achieve a red denotation here worthy of our discussion. Of course, we can discuss anything on top of that as well. So going down the general fund and looking at the first page, and this is what Legislator Isabel was getting at with his question, sales tax, you can see year to date, it's trending about $331,000 over last year, which was at 6.67 million. And I went in and did, my little math, which was extrapolate that over 12 months. That 331, divide by 5 and multiply by 12, and that, that may have us see a revenue 800,000 greater than what we budgeted. But Sean also told me during our meeting that May itself was already up 100,000 year over year. So where we are moving into the higher gas consumption months, for our county, given the our 2 throughway rest areas and more travel season when it comes to gas, for vacations and things of that nature. So obviously we'll keep a close eye on that from month to month, but we can see that already through May, through 5 months, we're trending in a direction where we may accrue as much as $1 million more than what we budgeted, and then are trending in that direction, which is a positive sign. And Legislator Isabel, it is indeed related to gas. So you were spot on with that. Other tax items, you can see the bed tax, their quarterly payments are due in June. So once that is received, that should get out of the red. Now you can see at the request of Legislator Pertel last month that the state and federal aid has been broken out here in such a way where we have state aid DSS, state aid other, federal aid DSS, federal aid other. So when it's a couple of things, you can see state aid DSS trending year to date $1,781,000, which is a good 750,000 greater than last year same time. But keep this in mind: these are face values of claims. These are not reconciled claims. So, and Sean, you also seem to think that it may have included an additional month with it that being that heavy?
Because of the large variance, I'm thinking that, the timing of when the claims were recorded last year compared to this year, it seems like an additional quarter may have been recorded earlier this year.
A quarter, an additional month or a quarter?
Additional month this
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
Additional month because of the large variance in dollar amounts.
okay.
Depending on when it was billed,
Yeah,
pushing
depending
the
depending when
reimbursement.
DSS sent me the actual claims to report.
So, but certainly a good suggestion, Legislator Pertel, to break these out. And you can also see that the federal aid for DSS is the lion's share of federal aid, because if you look at other, there's only another 75,000, of it right there. Or look at it in the budget. 9.3 million, 9.4 million of it was DSS, and 62,000 was federal aid other. So when we were looking at federal aid as a singular line item, we were looking at largely DSS flows right there. The state is more of a breakout between the two. And if you're wondering what makes up state aid other, it's the lion's share of that is public health and mental health. So so you can see that how we're trending in those directions. Now, that said, our DSS situation, we just heard a presentation, certainly carried much value, and but just to give you a prognosis on what's going there, only because I've asked Sean, April's claims have not been filed yet, and we're past May 20th, the given deadline that we indicated. We were told we should expect them to be filed by. And to my knowledge, and I asked Tim Ball from Bonadillo before the meeting, and I just asked him during the recess if he could talk about this at this particular point in time, but he wasn't prepared to, but he would come back to talk about it. No claims have been reconciled for 2018 yet, year to date. So they have not gone in and reconciled January, February, March, and April's haven't even been filed. So we're going to be looking at inflated numbers virtually all year long because of that. Now, all that said, it's also my understanding that they are down 3 people. And they, how many?
Yes, within that financial.
Within the financial part. So obviously, a lot of their effort the last month was focused on, getting the claims reconciled for 2017 so that Sean could file the odds, so that our auditors could come in and do the budget. And obviously, in the meantime, they're down some people. So I think we have a situation here where, I'll revert to you, Executive Ossenfort, and ask, what are the prospects for beefing up that staff? I'm getting the impression that there's not a lot of candidates out there to fill some of these positions to help them get back operating on all cylinders.
That's exactly right. It's not even an issue of whether or not we have the proper amount of budgeted positions. It's we're having trouble recruitment difficulties in filling these positions, even in situations where a list has been exhausted and we could potentially hire someone provisionally. But it's very risky for someone to take a provisional appointment and then could potentially be outed on the job when the test comes out and they don't finish in the top 3. So we've been kicking around some ideas with personnel on how to either recruit better, maybe look at changing some positions or to address it. But unfortunately, there is not an easy answer at this point.
Legislator Pertel.
Do we anticipate any cash flow issues because of this delay? You're talking about 6 months of the reimbursement, right?
Look, it's not cash flow. Right now, she's only 1 month behind with claims because she's filed January, February, March. If we come back next month and she still hasn't filed in April, then there is some, I would say, some worry to do with because she'll be 2 months behind. I was told by Michelle DSS that she's currently working on the April claims, so as long as they get filed within the next couple of weeks, the cash flow shouldn't be an issue. If we get to a point where this manpower issue becomes a claiming issue, where claims are not being recorded, then potentially you could see a cash flow.
But Legislator Patel brings up a good point, because it is compounding itself. You know, okay, if we get here next month and April's not filed, but, you know, May's needs to be filed by June 20th, you know what I mean? And if that's going to exacerbate the problem and have them filing, you know, 2 months late instead of a month and 20 days late, you know, or 2.5 months late, you know, I could see the validity of that question.
Just to go back to the end of 17, like I said, if you recall, last year for 17, October, November, and December weren't filed until after the first of the year.
Right.
And now that the reconciliations have been done in order to get the AUD done and accepted, that was the clear focus, because there was a lot of frustration there, and it was certainly felt in the department. And in talking with Tim, that's certainly a priority, as we go forward in the next few weeks, is try to prevent that from happening again. I think the level of seriousness has been hurt.
Is there any consultants or staffing agencies that we can go out of?
Not for civil service positions, no.
No, to just bring it up to speed?
So you'd like to have a private contractor do union work?
Just asking.
I'll ask you.
Well, when you put it that way, no.
I guess my point is the cost of the money as opposed to it, not the valid point, but
Yeah, I mean, I think if we were in an emergency situation with cash flow problems, I think that's something, we're trying to work within civil service and trying to, recruit and get those positions full. Unfortunately, we have a relatively exhausted list and some hesitancy for people to take positional appointments, which is a challenge. And then by the time you get the tests scheduled and get a refurbished list, that can be months. So it's a frustrating experience for sure.
Chairman Edwin.
Is the head of the department concerned as much as we are? Because it seems like we are more concerned about this problem. We're more concerned about it because I think if the person that's in charge of the department was that concerned, he wouldn't let it get past April. I mean, it's like every month we get to, there's an excuse of why it didn't happen. And we've been listening to these excuses now for 1.5 years. Now we're behind because of this problem. We're behind because of this problem. And I like the commissioner, but the commissioner needs to pick up the pace a little bit. And I mean, it's really his problem. I mean, he needs to fix this problem. And if he needs to work more hours, he needs to do something. I mean, but it seems like we sit here in this room, we know what the problem is, but it doesn't seem to affect him.
Is the commissioner qualified to roll up his sleeves and pitch in with this work? And it's made it sound like a question that, I don't know.
I'm not sure the answer to that question.
Or jack up his staff to get it done. I don't know what, but it seems like we sit here, we talk about this, and then we come and it just doesn't.
Well, I don't think this is something that we're going to solve completely within a month or two. I think this issue is certainly going to linger because of the staffing issues and the amount of time it's going to take to not only fill the position, but also get those folks trained, which is the biggest issue. And then the bigger issue beyond that is how do we keep these folks here and prevent them from moving on to whether it's a state job or something else. That's a challenge, quite frankly, we deal with in a number of departments. And it's just really exacerbated in this department because of the large magnitude of the claims and how much money we're talking about here, and potentially cash flow problems. But I know Nicole, the commissioner, had about a 3-hour meeting on personnel, and personnel issues and changes and things that they can do to address this problem. There's some good ideas that came out of it, but again, nothing that's going to solve this issue, that's going to prevent it from being a topic at our dashboard moving forward. I wish I had a better answer for you.
Was this an unforeseen problem with personnel?
The two people that, the people left relatively, I mean, it wasn't a planned exit, so there was no, it wasn't like a retirement was coming, people left.
And they were within a few weeks of each other, were they not? Or within a month of each other, did I understand?
Yeah. So, that's it. And I think, that, to me digs into deeper, well, in looking at the exit interviews and making sure those done, why do people, even addressing some of those issues, that's, to me, the bigger problem is why are we not creating an environment where people want to?
Yes, it's a systemic problem in that respect.
And I have some thoughts there that I would say for more of a private conversation.
All right, well, moving down the ledger here, intergovernmental charges, it's our famous election chargeback and jail boarding, not tracking favorably at this particular point in time. Education expenses are up, but that's only because, and they're in the 49th percentile, but that's because, as you know, that we've already paid out 50% of our yearly contribution to the college. So that'll catch up within a couple of months and be back in the green until we make our second installment. And then transfers out, that only registers as it pertains, I'm sorry, that pertains to the county road fund paying for the snow contracts. And we know that they're paid in full. That's why that's tracking above its required level at this time, based on the timing of when we have to make those payments. Any other questions on the general fund? Hearing none, going to the county road fund, miscellaneous revenue, small line item, almost a moot point as to why it's not tracking. It's a $14,000 annual figure. State aid, the CHIPS money, we know is not going to start kicking in until the projects start or get underway. I would imagine some of them are underway already since we've reached the good weather in May, so we should start seeing some reimbursement under the CHIPS program in that revenue line item as we move forward. Transportation, again, that's related to the snow contracts having been paid out already. On the road machinery fund, transfers in are just on an as-needed basis, and they haven't requested anything, so that's why there's no revenue in that category. And in the health insurance fund, it's billed quarterly to the other funds, so we should expect to see that repair itself a little after the June quarterly billing sometime in July. Legislator Kelly.
Back to the general fund.
Yes, sir.
The due to other fund, previous it was negative, previous year was negative 667, but this year it's 17,000. What's that difference?
For general fund?
Yeah, the general fund due to other funds.
What that is if, is it due to on a general fund or is it due to on?
It's on the liabilities.
It's in the cash flow.
Yeah.
On the bottom, it was $667 last year, and now it's 17, almost 18,000.
Due to other funds?
Yeah.
Scroll. Yeah, right. There it is.
There.
The difference is only about $1,000?
No.
No, that isn't what we have. That isn't what I have.
Yeah, I got 667
I have a negative 667.
in prior year.
Oh, you have to go over. Oh, this way. That helps.
Okay, there you go.
I don't know, I can look at that up and let you know what that is. I'm right offhand, I can't tell you exactly what it is, but I can tell you when I get that up. What that is if for some reason another fund is owed money from the general fund, that's what that's.
Right.
Right, well, I'll look that up and send details of what the difference is.
You okay, Legislator Kelly? Before we move on? Okay. I see a look of consternation on your face.
The health insurance one.
Oh. Okay. All right. Let us move on to our next bullet, departmental reports. We'll go through these department by department. There's only a few on here, if you've looked at them. Got these today, so it's, you know, we're all looking at them for the most part for the first time here. I glanced at it quickly when I got here, 20 after 5 or whatever, but auditing, nothing. Board of Elections, nothing alarming. Central Purchasing, nothing. County Attorney, you sure there's nothing? No. County Clerk, County Executive, County Treasurer, Fulton County Solid Waste Settlement pending. Sean, do you want anything you want to comment on there?
Not at this point, still confused what it is.
Okay. Data processing, we get the detail that we typically get on various pieces of machinery and equipment. The DA, nothing. Economic development, worth taking a peek at here as a group. He looks like he's gonna need a plotter, which runs 6,000 to 10,000. And the bids on the road widening bids for Route 5S. Can you guys give us a little insight into how that could impact anything?
Sure. Basically what Ken's saying is here is we're going to find out what the actual costs were. There was some information that was given to you guys a while back. Essentially what's going on is the Dollar General Distribution Center required a road widening and some signage and a light. And as a result, the poles needed to be moved. We were shocked with the cost that was associated with that. Actually tried to lobby the state and Public Service Commission on that unsuccessfully. But that's just kind of giving you a heads up that that is going to be coming to fruition, and we're going to get a better idea of what the actual numbers are very shortly.
But, I mean, you don't foresee a situation where we're looking for reimbursement someplace? Is that what we're looking for, or?
No, there's not reimbursement or anything of that nature.
But we've paid this out already. We had to pay National Grid $480.
So yeah, but it's looking for the final reconciliation of what the actual costs are. I think that's my understanding of it. I think he's just saying that this was an unknown. This is something that we don't know exactly what it's going to be, and I don't think he said it here it's going to be lower or higher.
But he must have budgeted for this, correct?
We already paid this. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
believe when we did it, because we did borrow money. Georgia, I believe $1.5 million was borrowed, and that's what they get reimbursed.
Okay.
And I believe that 1.5 did not include the national grid issue.
Can we bond it if we need to?
I can if that's what.
I mean, because we can't take a hit like this.
I thought we already paid this. Didn't we have to prepay this?
The national grid. It's possible that we paid that out of the borrowed funds. Because it's all part of the capital project. $1.5 million has been set aside for that Route 5S project. So this was an expense of the project, so it was.
So we borrowed $1.5 million towards this project, not really to include this. May have used 500 of it to pay this, hoping to get some of it back, and we're not going to get reimbursed. We just may have to borrow more money then.
Additional, like I said, it doesn't right out say that we may have to borrow an additional
$500,000.
$500,000 to
All right.
cover this.
I mean, I'd much rather borrow than, you know, we can't afford to take a fund balance hit of that nature. Okay. I'm sure I'll keep us posted. Emergency management, nothing red flaggy. History and archives, mental health, personnel. We got some material here. We know that the CSEA contract got voted down. Now, it's been our expectation that this will not really impact our budget until next year based on the timing of when you guys are going to get back to the table and whatnot. However, there's some language in here that suggests it could happen before year end or no?
Yeah, I would be
Mediation?
comfortable talking about that at this point.
Okay.
I think what's in here is self-explanatory. If you
Okay.
have any questions, feel free to contact me.
Okay.
I think there's just some good news in here relative to health insurance claim.
Yes, I was going to get there. Yes. The health insurance claims are trending positively. Looks like unemployment running a little bit high. And then negotiations with Council 82. That's, it has to do with the sheriffs or the people, who's that have to do with that?
Yeah, they're up at the public safety facility.
Okay.
We're in negotiations, but we're not. She put a lot of good detail in here related to some of the things that are going on with our particular negotiations and things of that nature. Nothing that is ready to present as an absolute cost going to be incurred this year.
Okay.
I think she's just giving you some background where we are with some of the
Okay.
negotiations.
Okay, thank you. Probation, nothing. Public defender, nothing. Public health. Now, this is something, it appears as though she's looking to hire a third staff member. But I also understand that although it may require a hit to the fund balance, we're gonna more than get it back through reimbursement.
Yeah, I'm actually was working on that resolution today, and trying to understand what exactly she's trying to do here, and, any changes there will be coming, it will be a resolution, next week. But we're looking to try to put some finishing touches on, and it was again addressing another recruitment issue with a very specific skill set.
But, I mean, good news going forward, maybe a pro rata amount for 4 months for this year's budget, but it'll be all completely reimbursable next year, so that's good. Public Works, nothing. Real property, nothing. Weights and measures, nothing. Sewer, nothing. Sheriff. You guys are both working on this?
Well, that was the issue we discussed last month.
Yeah.
Where, it wasn't included in his budget request, and then, so, I have not had any correspondence with the sheriff on this.
Okay. You, Sean? No.
No, I didn't last recently.
Okay. All right, well, social services,
Any resolutions for this upcoming month, so.
certainly no red flags in social services. Crimson, it's a crimson red flag.
Let's go back to what I said.
Yeah, exactly, and,
They could have a red flag, but if they waved it, then there'd be a problem with the flag.
I may get the bull mad. Running with the bulls red flag. All right, stop DWI, nothing, and your youth bureau, nothing. So, I think we've seen and heard enough here, so, unless there's any other questions.
Yeah, relatively quiet, I will add that I didn't put it on there, but it's not affecting fund balance, but I'm trying to transfer, for my budget for next month, but the details will be in the resolution.
All right, before I call the meeting to a close, next month, I mean, right now, all that's really on the agenda for a budget workshop would be a dashboard report. And, and then the following month, we'll do dashboard, we'll do departments again, and then we're gonna look at our own budget in August. Our own cost center 30. And
Probably don't need that.
yeah, so I think we're gonna trend to skip the budget workshop for 1 month next week, or next month in July. And, this dashboard has not been alarming, other than what we know is going on in that other world, but there's nothing else too alarming there to have to meet to review one report. Legislator Kelly.
Will Mr. Paul have something to come back and report on next month? Or?
You didn't have anything planned for next month?
No, you know what I just said to him though, I said, are you prepared to talk about any of how we might be able to deal with claims for this year? Reconcilements and that kind of thing. And he said, we were just so focused on everything. But I think, in that respect, we could also have him come before the committee meeting.
That, or, we can, yeah, and Sean and I are just discussing, and, the key here is the staffing issue, and I'd be happy to work on that and provide a detailed look at what we're doing, to try to solve the problem to you guys, and we will report on that in July.
And I would say this, Sean, please put the dashboard together again next month, but just email it to all of us.
Okay.
And then-
I'll forward it to Cheryl and she can.
Yes, and she can email it to all of us, and at
Sure
least
it's
that.
not on a Friday.
All right, any other questions or discussion anybody wants to have here this evening? I think we've had one of our more spirited budget workshops with a lot of presentations, so nothing else, a motion to adjourn? Second? Number 1 and number 2.